Whoa, hey everybody. Hello, hello, hello. All right, we got to figure it out here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Geoff, where our mission is to bring guests from all over the world with different backgrounds, different experiences, with a desire to come in here and tell their story and talk about how they've overcome different things, how they've been through the battles of the comebacks in life, and they keep showing up, right? And then they leave you with solutions that you can use right now, today, right? I mean, you're able to click in, check out some stuff, put it in your toolbox if you're not ready for it now, and then use it later or use it right now today. So we have an exciting show coming up for you today, and the title of it is Fuel Your Body, Strengthen Your Mind, and Transform Your Life, right? Oh, man. So listen, I always like to ask folks before we kick this thing off is, how is the conversation you're having with yourself about yourself? Right? You know that thinking conversation potentially, or is that the encouraging conversation that you had when you looked in the mirror? Hey, I just like to ask, because however you are, you're going to feel a whole lot better when we're done with you today. All right, and for those of you that don't know me, my name is Geoff Tyson, and I am the host of Conversations with Geoff International and founder of Comeback King Enterprises, where we do legendary speaking, coaching, and consulting. And so, man, I just want to say two things to you today. Number one, please make sure you show some love to our guest, encourage her in the chat. If you're coming from different platforms, let us know where you're coming from. Doesn't always show up in the comment section. And then make sure you share this information and get ready to take some notes, right? I mean, because it's about health. It's about not just physical health, but it's a mental and spiritual health, and connecting and fusing them all together. So anyhow, let's get to why we're here today and our guest, right? And I'm just going to highlight her bio like I always do. And our guest, Khieanne Dawson, man, is a dear friend of mine that I met some years ago and haven't really talked to her today and it's been a couple of years. And she talks about fusing, kind of putting everything together, how to discover how you fuse food, faith, and attitude, and unlock your best self. She's an integrative nutritional health coach, educates folks on and inspires, and it's all for your best health, right? She works with your body instead of against, helps you work with your body instead of against it. How many of us go against everything we do? We get good direction and then all right. So let me see. She sees what areas in your life style. I'm gonna say this again. She looks at the areas in your lifestyle that are out of balance and works with you to realign yourself and get yourself back on track. How many of us spend a lot of time out of balance? And hey, listen, you got to be, I know the hustlers, you're going to be a little bit out of balance, but how would you like to be out of balance, but in balance, out of balance? Yeah, figure that one out, right? So I'm curious about this myself, talks about life with plant-based living. Woo. Somebody said one day, if it's not from the ground, put it down. Because I was eating barbecue, I think, at the time. So anyway, so the mom of four, a dear friend, ladies and gentlemen, come support us today. And let me welcome to the stage Khieanne Dawson.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, how are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me, Geoff.
Hey, it's a pleasure. You were talking earlier about wanting to get you on a few years ago, and you've been so busy and just things didn't come together. So I know you're meant to be here today. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes. There's all kinds of things with the time we have. We're not going to be able, because I love what you're talking about, when you help to infuse food, faith, and fortitude through optional health, and then your roadmap to living a plant-based diet, how to fuel your body for sustained energy and peak performance. And just, have you always been in this space, or what led you to say, hey, let's get better with what we eat and how we live?
No, I have not always been in this space, actually. What led me to this space is my own personal health journey. that I went through years ago. So way back when I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with rheumatic fever. And it's an autoimmune condition that causes swelling in your joints, fingers, hands, feet, legs, all of that, joints especially. And I was walking home from school one day and I could barely walk. Got home, told my mom what was going on, and she took me to our family doctor, and that's where I got diagnosed with rheumatic fever. At that point, I was told that I would have to take penicillin shots once a month for the rest of my life.
Ooh-wee.
Yes, that's what I was told then. And we didn't know any different. So we went along and we started doing the penicillin shots. I was doing that for a number of years.
Yeah.
Back then, when I was diagnosed, I was in Jamaica. That's where I was born and raised. And then came to the U.S. when I was 13 and just continued it, since then. Yeah. And it got to a point when I went away to college. I was in college and I met some people that were into healthy lifestyle. And I was learning more about the connection with the food we eat, the lifestyle we live, and how healthy we are. Yes. And I thought that was so fascinating. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot, because I started learning that going plant-based can reverse a lot of chronic illness, because a lot of part of the reasons why many people have chronic illness is because we're not feeling ourselves well. And we are not living the best lifestyle. So our bodies are starting to malfunction, basically, right? Because it doesn't have the right tools to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So it was very significant. So I decided to go plant-based, and I said, I'm going to see what happens. I did. And when I went plant-based, in 2 months, I lost 10 pounds of fluid, just water weight. Just all dropped. Wow. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. So in that 2 months, what I did was I cut red meat, then chicken, fish, dairy, and I started incorporating a lot more vegetables, raw and cooked vegetables, different types of beans that I hadn't really, known before. I didn't grow up eating some of these things, but I was open to trying new things because I wanted to see how it would work in my body. And I saw the changes. My skin cleared up. I was, more invigorated. I had more energy. I was going to the gym more. I was just so much more energized than I was before. And I could see the changes happening. And I was very ecstatic about it when I noticed the changes. And go ahead.
I got to ask you, because, I'm just like, come on now. I mean, because I've seen some people that are plant-based and they're larger than I am. And I'm thinking, well, why would I want to put down my chicken bones for that lifestyle if I'm still going to continue to look like that, right? Because you said some amazing things about right away in 2 weeks you lost weight, and
2 months. 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months. Okay.
Yes.
I give you 2 months. It's still tremendous, and you obviously kept it off, but you've seen the evidence of it, and I guess because you said something else too about early on in your childhood about not knowing any better. When you guys were taking medication and you're doing all these other things. So I'm getting to my question, right?
Yes.
Because it was really, you were on the road. I want to get you back there, but it's kind of like, because people battle with the whole idea around what's really right. And if the doctor says this is what you need to have, then you follow the doctor's orders and you don't go against that, and all of those things. Can you, maybe it's a little later on after you tell us a little bit more how you kind of grew into who you are. Mm-hmm. I really want to make sure that we speak to that piece of the mindset of folks, because I'm sure you probably come across that a lot.
Yes, for sure. So, ultimately what it comes down to is our own personal accountability to take care of the body that we're in.
Yes.
Okay. We know ourselves as far as how our body works, and we are the ones that are listening and seeing the signals that our bodies are sending us. And so when we are paying attention, we can see these signals, but we've got to know how to respond to the signals our body's sending us. Okay. Because our body's sending us signals all the time.
Yes.
This is working well. This is not working well. Something is not right. Something is going right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got to educate ourselves on how our bodies work. I mean, just like say you buy a car, right?
Yep.
You are going to learn how that car runs. You want to know what kind of gas you need to put in it. You need to know when you need to change the oil, etc. Right?
Yes.
Same thing with our bodies, but even on a grander scale, right?
Yeah.
Because we only get one. It's not like we can just trade our car in or our bodies in for another one, right? We can't do that.
We just get one. So what kind of signals should we, when we talk about that, is it like aches and pains, or is it bowel discomfort, or I mean, are those some of the obvious ones? What can you tell us?
Yeah, some of those, aches and pains is one. If you have, unnatural swelling, something's definitely wrong with the lymphatic system. So the aches and pains could be for various reasons. Yes. I am a lifelong learner, so I go through anatomy and physiology books. I do a lot of my own learning outside of the health coach training that I have gotten. And I was a bio major in college too. So there's all that, interest and fascination.
Sure.
But I want to say, when you have stomach issues, if you're not releasing your waste in a timely manner, you're not making regular bowel movements. I know this is not the topic many people want to hear about or talk about, but it's part of life. It's part of life.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
If you're not you're not making a bowel movement after each meal, you're constipated.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I found that out. Since we're talking about it, we are grown folks here, and this is really important. I really believe it is. It's talk about your poop. Are you doing it, like you said, after every meal? Who says you're supposed to do it once a day, or whenever it is? Like you said, I mean, that's important, because what happens when you are doing that every day? How much? Obviously, you're going to feel better.
Yes. Because the waste has to come out. If it doesn't come out, it's going to stay in and create toxicity in your system.
Yeah.
And it goes down to a cellular level, the toxicity. So the important thing about health and wellness is you want to make sure that your cells are functioning properly. They need to be getting healthy nutrients in, enough water to bring in the nutrients and to flush the waste out. So it's a dynamic, it's a beautiful symphony of things happening in our bodies that we want to work together in harmony. And we want to be directing that harmony. Okay. We don't want to just do any old thing, because it's not going to go well. Dysfunction happens when we just do whatever and not care, the proper functioning, right?
Yes.
So those are some simple things, but the waste removal, that is one big reason why there's so much chronic illness, is not having proper waste removal. And I'll get into that a little bit later, as far as some things that you can do to make sure that you're pretty regular.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, so we'll make sure we circle around that, because that's huge. And even with kids, doesn't matter what age. Right?
Yes, any age.
A lot of times kids are uncomfortable and they don't eat right because they're drinking sodas. They're eating food that, when you really look at the ingredients, you need a big brain person like you to be able to say the words and let them understand what it is, right? I mean, the MSGs and the fructose corn syrups and all those things that are designed to create hunger in our bodies. It's scary.
Yes. And that's why we have to be our own advocate, and we need to educate ourselves on what things we're putting in and making sure that we're releasing anything that is not serving us well. Okay. Yeah. So that's all part of that balance piece there. Okay. So as far as my health journey, though, when I did make those changes, I started incorporating a lot more vegetables. As I said, I stopped using table salt and I started using pure unrefined sea salt.
Sea salt, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, and the Celtic sea salt is the one I've been using for decades now, actually. Okay. So these changes I made was 27 plus years ago.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. So that was really the beginning of my health journey, and it's a continuum. Okay. You never get to a place where you're like, okay, I'm here now, so I don't have to do anything else. As long as I'm alive, I'll be continuing this journey. Okay?
Gotcha.
So, so the interesting thing is, when I made those changes, and started eating more whole grains.
Yeah.
I stopped eating a lot of refined things, or significantly reduced the refined flours, so instead of white rice and white flour products, I was using whole wheat products or other grains, and brown rice instead of white rice, because that's where most of the nutrients are.
Yes.
Is in the whole grain, in that skin of the seed. That's where most of the vitamins and minerals are. If you have that processed and they scrape all of that off, all you're getting is just plain starch. That's refined carbohydrates. That's the stuff you want to stay away from.
Isn't there some sugar in it too in the white rice?
The starch breaks down into sugar in your body.
Okay.
So the nice thing about the whole grain is the fiber is what's on that skin, okay? The skin of the seed. That fiber helps to balance out how your body metabolizes it throughout the day, between that meal and the next meal. Yeah. So you don't feel hungry as quickly because the fiber is helping to regulate how your body processes it.
Right.
And you stay fuller longer, which you're less likely to snack in between your meals, and you are less likely to get more calories and not gain as much weight. So there's such a domino effect with all of these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's very important to understand how it all works. See the full picture.
So simplified version, the more junk you throw in your body, the harder your body has to work to figure out what it is. And then it begins this natural process of, okay, well, it's not appropriate with these types of natural ingredients, so that it gets all out of whack. And you stay big no matter how much you exercise. Right?
Yes.
You can't exercise off what you eat.
That's right. That is exactly right. It's about balancing all of it. But it's a beautiful thing once you understand it, because I have found, I have had times where I was not practicing the ideal meal plan at times, and I could feel it in my body. But I will say, when I finally got to a place where the conviction really stuck, and I realized, okay, it's got to be more than my willpower that will help me to sustain this. I really do need to have a deeper understanding of why I'm doing what I'm doing, one. And two, I realized that I needed God's help to get past those cravings and those desires for things that were not serving me well. Because I knew if I ate certain things, I was like, I'm going to feel sick, not too long after, or I'm going to have this brain fog, I'm not going to have the mental clarity I once did. So understanding that this is how the faith piece has come in for me is seeing that, I am very much a believer in scripture, and I believe what it says about us. And scripture tells us that our bodies are God's temple, where he dwells, where the Holy Spirit dwells. Right. And we are to take care of what we have been given.
Yes.
And we're to be good stewards of it, right?
Yeah.
And when we do, we have better mental clarity to be able to communicate with him, one, and also to have the best abundant life we can here and now. While we are on earth, we can fully live the purpose that God has put us here for when we are in the best health that we can be.
That's right. Absolutely. And the age, you can still be healthy at 66. You can still be healthy at 86.
86, 96.
96, and Moses was still climbing mountains at 120 something. So, I mean, don't quote me on that, but that's what I heard. So,
I mean, it's amazing. And it all comes down to how we take care of our bodies. Now, does it mean you're never going to get a cold or anything? No, there are going to be times when you may get sick, but the fact of the matter is quality of life, right?
That's right.
What would we prefer, to be ailing for decades until you die, or just go to bed one night and not wake up? You know what I mean? Like, I would prefer to go like that.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually that's where we're going to go, but I would prefer to go that way versus ailing and sick and, slowly dying for 10, 20 years. You see what I mean? Like, nobody wants to live like that.
Yeah. The disease on top of how you eat yourself, then we catch all these diseases, which is a whole nother conversation on where they come from and how they attack our bodies is relevant. So tell me, what's the roadmap? Because that was one of the things I wanted to make sure before you get away from here, because you're just dropping some really fundamental things that we can really just use right now. What's kind of a roadmap to living a plant-based diet and I know it's a lot to that, but how can you kind of give us some starting points maybe, or some things to offset, I'll just say, my thinking years ago. I'm a lot better today around vegetables and how would I eat and red meat and all the other things. But there was a time when I'm like, hey, well, I don't want vegetables, and I'm an athlete, right? I mean, ignorance is still, it's a powerful thing, right? So you get all that together. What kind of little breadcrumbs that people can take away from here to do better today?
Yes, for sure. So just before I answer that real quick, I just want to real quick that a year after I did my transition and going plant-based, I had to go to the cardiologist. I just want to show you the outcome. Okay.
Yeah. I want to hear it. Let's talk about it.
I had to go to cardiologist to get my heart checked because that was one of the concerns the doctor had, was that if I were to get an infection, it could attack my heart valves and I could develop cardiovascular disease. Okay. So that's why they said I had to take the penicillin shots once a month to prevent that. That was their logic behind it. I had to get the checks at the cardiologist. And when I went a year after I made the change, he couldn't even detect that I had a heart murmur, which was one of the symptoms that I had before. It was not even existent, no trace of it. It was completely gone, And I thought to myself, okay, so what I'd been doing has completely reversed the symptoms of this rheumatic fever that I once had.
Yeah.
No longer had the edema, no longer had the heart murmur, and I was feeling more vibrant than ever.
Wow.
And at this point, I was 18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So just imagine if you didn't go another direction and still be.
I know I would be a different person.
Yeah.
Because in my family, I have, high blood pressure. There's obesity. There is, heart issues. So, when people say, well, it's in my family, I'm going to get it. No, you don't have to get it.
Yeah.
Because genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Woo! Wow, I'm right. Genetic loads the gun. Wow.
Yeah, it's a very, very common statement when you get to the understanding that lifestyle can actually change and turn on and off certain types of genetic traits.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And research is showing this more and more. And
so give us an example
as far as
tell us what
sorry,
you're
go
talking
ahead.
Yeah, tell us what you're talking about in that space before we move on. What kind of traits? What can you share with us on that?
So, for example, the genes that show that are manifested in allowing my skin to manifest looking like I'm brown. Okay.
Yep.
Those are fixed, right? Okay. Can't change those.
Yeah.
But say my parents had heart disease or diabetes. Okay. I may have a tendency to get the same disease.
Okay.
I may have a weakness in my genes for that.
Yep. Gotcha.
But if I decide to choose an optimal lifestyle that doesn't create an environment in my body for those to activate, then I will not have a manifestation of those types of illnesses.
Yeah.
Okay, because those genes will get turned off.
Yes.
But if I continue the same habits that my parents did, you better believe that it will show up.
Yeah.
That's typically how that works as far as the genes. Okay. Their genes, certain genes can be turned on and off when it comes to lifestyle, illnesses and stuff like that.
And we're not just talking about, and I'm not, this is your parents, it's in general. We're not just talking
Right, in
about
general.
eating. It's the whole environment in the lifestyle.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
exercise
Yes.
or no exercise. High
Right.
level, crazy, stress, chaos life, or calm and peaceful life. Right.
Yes. How you manage your stress, your thought life, all of these things really work together.
Yeah. And those are, so that takes away the excuse for people that, that just don't say, I don't have time, or I don't have insurance. Well, hey, this is, you don't need insurance if you follow some different things like what you're talking about, paying attention to your body, learning about that. I mean, there's no excuse for people not to know anything today. And not saying that Google is right all the time, but there is a beginning learning process. And then they meet people like you that know what the heck you're talking about. Right? You've lived it, and you're still living it. Khieanne. So, I mean, man.
Sure have. So as far as that, the breadcrumbs you're asking about the plant-based lifestyle, what it comes down to is crowding out the unhealthy foods. So how do you crowd out unhealthy foods? Say you usually buy, when you go to the grocery store, you usually buy 5 bags of potato chips. Okay. So instead of buying 5 bags of potato chips, you buy maybe 1 bag this time and buy some whole potatoes and steam them with the skins on when you cook them.
Yeah. I love that.
You know what I mean?
I do. That's what I do. I do the baked potato like you're talking about. Cut it up. Yeah. So go ahead. I love that. I was thinking about chips. My wife likes chips, but we don't buy 5 bags anymore. We got.
And if you're gonna have a few, have a handful with your meal, not snacking between the meals.
Yeah.
Gotta give your digestive system time to break down. So it's recommended about 4 to 5 hours space between your meals to help your digestive system function at its best. Right. So you're not overworking your system. Okay.
Yeah.
That helps with aging too. Okay, because it takes energy to digest your food. So if your body is not working as hard to do the simple things of life that it needs to keep you alive, then you're going to have more energy, and you're going to your body's going to last longer. That's where that longevity comes from. I
got you. So we're talking about something I wanted to just ask a question about. So at dinner, do you some say drink some water before you have dinner so you won't eat as much. Some say don't drink at all while you're eating. Do you have any opinion around that?
Sure. So as far as the water intake or drinking liquids in general, it's recommended to drink half an hour before you eat. Okay. And wait an hour and a half after you eat before you drink again. That's without eating anything else. Okay. Here's why. If you drink between the meals, your body will be hydrated enough so that you won't feel like you're choking on your food, where you feel like you have to wash it down, because you'll have enough saliva being produced in your mouth when you're chewing, so you don't feel like, oh, I'm so thirsty. Drinking between the meals, that's the best recommendation there, because of how the body functions. Remember I was talking about, you mentioned, about the body's design? Yes. So our body, you have gastric acid that is very high acidic level to break down the food into smaller particles that your body can use to make new tissue, right? Right. So if that acidity gets diluted, it's not going to be strong enough to break down the food. So it's going to start to spoil. Okay. Gotcha. So to avoid that, you want your body to function at full peak potential and be at full capacity when it's doing what it needs to do. So that's how we help our body do what it needs to do instead of being a hindrance to it. Yeah. Because and we don't even know we're doing that. No, we don't, because of habits. We grow up doing certain things and it's just been part of life, but we don't really understand the connection between our choices and what actually is going on inside. Wow, but that goes back to that word choices. Choices. and how much we know before we make the choice, and how much we don't know before we make the choice. And then, fortunately, we have folks like you that say, "Hey, wait a minute, there is a better way." And I love that, because I'm going to do what you said, because I drink a little, water.
while I'm eating them, and somebody, oh, you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, oh, why? So now I know. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Education is key. That's really my I live by that, because when we understand why, it makes all the difference in the choices that we make, because we're making an educated decision, not just because, oh, that's what I've seen everybody else do.
Right. Well, we're comfortable sometimes staying in that bubble of ignorance. And
Yes.
I encourage people to make sure who are listening to this to reach out and stay in touch with you, because there's just so many things that we aren't going to be able to get to, but you're just, some basic fundamental things. So you're talking about some of the breadcrumbs. Before we leave that, is there anything else maybe simple that we could talk another crumb?
Yeah. As many colors as possible. Incorporate them. Different fruits, different vegetables. Make sure you incorporate the different types of beans. That's where plant-based eaters get their protein from.
Yep.
Beans, nuts, and seeds.
Yep.
Incorporating them. And you can actually combine all of these, various types of beans, seeds, nuts in different combinations to make things that are like meat alternatives that are actually made from scratch, that are made from whole foods, not the processed things that you may see in the grocery store, but whole, like say meatballs, made from things like walnuts and other grains and things like that. And actually have a recipe like that in my cookbook that I have coming out when I get it done.
What are we waiting for? Come on now, we need it, man.
Yes. I know, change in season, right? I'm in a different season that I was. And so, actually there are a few elements that I'll be adding that I chose to add that were not originally in my plan. So I think people need some more of these, practical tips and things like that, as far as just health and lifestyle, that I'll be adding that were not in my original plan. So it's in a work in progress still.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. I remember you were doing some cooking things when we first met. I think you had doing some things live, and I was like, man, she's got something figured out here that can help people, right? And do those amazing things, Khieanne. So now you're doing this stuff. You're eating better. You're feeling better. You're stepping into coaching and being a mom. What do you, when things seem to be at their best, there's always some crazy stuff that happens. What can you tell people? Because we're talking about changing a lifestyle. We're talking about changing dieting. We're talking about potentially, having a different Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, all these things, which is family. And did you have any, battles or lose family members, or how was that transition been for you in this new way of living, which has been most of your life?
Yeah. So did I lose family members? Not really. Some people, I'd say, may have just questioned initially quite a bit. People question like, what are you doing?
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Because like I said, I grew up in Jamaica, and I grew up eating a lot of fried chicken and, curry goats and oxtail and, all of that stuff.
I'm getting hungry. Stop.
That's a lot of the stuff that I grew up eating, but I had to change the way that I thought about food, because a lot of times the food we eat is linked to our identity. It is linked to, we link our culture with our identity. And when I realized that, okay, this particular piece of the culture has not been bringing good results, it didn't bring good results for me, that's something that I can release.
Yeah.
Does it mean that I'm no longer Jamaican? No.
Right.
But it just means that that's just something that I'm going to shift a little bit. Yeah. So instead, I can use the same seasonings, and I use plant-based alternatives to make something that reminds me of something I grew up eating. You know what I mean?
I do.
So,
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's all about understanding how to substitute. That was one thing I learned, and it's been a continuous process, is learning. You got to season those vegetables. You got to season those beans. You got to season that tofu.
Yes.
Give it the flavor.
Yes.
Because
Flavor.
it's the herbs and the spices, that give it the flavor that we enjoy so much. Because nobody would just, put a piece of raw chicken on the grill, no salt, no seasoning, nothing. Nobody would want to eat that, right?
No.
Same thing with the veggies, right? You gotta give it the flavor with the same, type of intensity that you would when you season meat. Yeah. And believe it or not, the benefits would be that, one, you don't feel quite so sleepy after you eat.
Yeah.
Because the food is actually energizing you instead of sapping your energy. Yes. That's one thing I realized when I switched over, is I don't feel like I have to take a nap every time I eat. Yeah. Providing that I don't overeat. Yeah, if you overeat anything, it's going to do the same thing.
You're going to get the itis one day or one way or another.
Right. But when you eating live food, you're eating a lot more raw vegetables, because raw vegetables has a lot of those enzymes that help to digest the cooked food that you're eating. Yes. And it feels lighter when you eat, instead of feeling like, oh, I just need to go to sleep. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
So those are some things that I learned, and just listening to what my body was saying, is like, oh, this is actually really good. And I feel like I am not, my belly doesn't feel bloated, or I don't feel, so heavy in my stomach, when I'm eating. And that really changed the view. And because of those things that I noticed, I was like, you know what, this is worth keeping. This habit is worth sticking with.
I love that. The evidence is there. But what if you got that person that's in an environment that they're not able to get out of, so they're in the opposite environment where they realize what's going on, but they can't. They're limited in their resources, but want to make a difference.
Just start small.
Okay.
Start with the smallest thing you can do. Yeah. So if you have a little, even if you live in an apartment, right?
Yeah.
And you find that you don't really have a lot of areas to go to get fresh produce.
Yeah.
You can actually plant a little bit of something. Say you want to get more lettuce. You want to eat more lettuce. Yeah. Get a few lettuce seeds. A pack of seeds is like really cheap.
Yeah.
You can plant your own in your own, put it by a window.
I've seen that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There's like little things you can do like that, and just start small, and then little bit by little bit you add something else. Maybe you like to eat tomatoes. Yeah. Get a tomato, plant a tomato plant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So little things like that. I grow a garden every year, and that is one of the biggest blessings, because I know what I put into the soil.
Yes.
So I know the quality of the food that I'm getting.
Yeah.
So that's also important, because not everybody, I understand, there's some people that live in food deserts that have challenged getting good, healthy produce.
Well, when you get apples, you get apples that were like this, and now they're as big as my head, or you have seedless watermelon, which how can that be? Seedless grapes. Mm-hmm. How can that be? It has been some little scientists creating those types of things.
Yes.
So even in a healthy search in apples and fruit, you have to be careful of what you buy and educate yourself on.
Yeah, for sure. And there are places that sell heirloom seeds, which are the ones that have not been tampered with as far as genetic tampering. Okay.
Yeah.
So you could do search online for companies that sell heirloom seeds.
And that's heirloom seeds. Okay.
Mm-hmm. HEIRLOOM, heirloom seeds. And you can save the seeds from whatever you grow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then use it the next year.
Yeah.
If you have a little bit of patch of dirt in your backyard, trust me, you can get so much from a little patch of dirt.
Well, I gotta give it to her. My daughter and her family, they planted had a little patch of dirt, just like you said, in the suburbs.
Yeah.
And did their little thing behind the house. And they had these zucchinis and lettuce and herbs. And so it can be done. I mean, and they're both busy. Everybody's busy, but it can still be done because it's about our health, right? I mean,
yes, that's exactly right. And you know what I found too with gardening is that God's bounty is just abundant. I mean, just abundant. You do a little bit of work, you put a little bit of effort, and He multiplies it by 10 to 100.
Yeah.
I mean, one tomato has hundreds of seeds in it.
Yeah. How about
just
that?
One, right?
Yeah.
So if you just look at that, just one little example, and there's that. But back to your question about family members, sometimes people didn't understand what I was doing, but over time they did. So questions I would ask is, so is all that you eat is lettuce and tomato? No. So no, I don't eat just lettuce and tomato. Yeah. So I would explain to them, different things. Or they will ask me, like, do you eat something like in Jamaica, we have breadfruit. And they would say, do you eat breadfruit? Yes, breadfruit is a plant, comes from a plant, Yeah. So it's things like that. And one thing I want to mention about breadfruit, by the way, it has a low glycemic index. So for people who have challenges, with wanting to monitor your glycemic index foods, that has a low glycemic index. So it's not going to spike your blood sugar like white bread will.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that, because it's actually really good for you. But so I eat breadfruit. I eat whole grains, wheat, rice, brown rice, things like that. And when you have family gatherings, you bring a dish that you will, that is a healthier option for you, right?
Yeah.
And you introduce it to them too.
That's right. That's right.
So that's a nice thing. Bring a dish or two if that's what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
But you still have the gatherings, you still have the get-togethers, and you bring what foods that serve you. Because many times people say, well, I don't want to eat that stuff, but just bring something,
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, and you stay connected that way, and people will taste it. They'll sneak around. They won't let you see you, but they'll taste it. I've seen it happen, and it can keep people united. And
yes.
The whole name of the game is to get healthy and to change and infuse different ways of thinking, all the things that you've said.
Yeah.
I've kept you here way longer than I normally do. I could keep going because I had a lot of questions.
No, that's fine. That's good. I'm happy to share.
I know I can't do that, but I just want to say that you've been. I do have to ask. So, what do you think about the plastics that are being found in people's bodies and from all the different things, plastic cutting boards and things like that, where that alone is over a year's time. If you use plastic cutting boards, you can consume 3 to the equivalent of 3 to 5 credit cards just from the cutting boards and all the stuff like that. Do you look at any of that stuff or any opinion on anything in that space?
Yes, I do. Actually, it's really important to monitor that, because plastics cause a lot of problems, especially on a hormonal level.
Yeah.
They are often filled with endocrine disruptors. So it really affects the way our hormones work.
Okay.
And avoiding using plastic for food in general will help to minimize that. Drinking from plastic bottles, I try to avoid that as much as possible. I don't use plastic cutting boards anymore. So I use bamboo or wooden cutting boards.
Yeah.
And, even for my daughter, so my youngest, she's 2 now. So I have 26, 24, 22, and 2.
I wasn't going to tell them that, but I'm glad you did. But
I've learned, a number of things. Like in the beginning, I didn't really understand that as well, So now, like the containers that I have her use, I'll have her use bamboo or, something like that for her containers. Especially when she was younger, where they're at the throwing stage,
Yeah.
So they have ones that have suction. I would have her use that. And I use glass containers to store food. in as much as possible. If I'm going to store in a plastic container, it's usually something that is not oily or something that's cold, because hot food will react with the plastic and oily foods will leach. It pulls the chemicals out of the plastic, similarly to the way the hot food will respond. So I kind of minimize it. And I just, like I said, slowly crowd out, right? As you're replacing things, get more glass and
So drinking bottled water that's been in 90-degree temperature is probably not a good thing to do, because you're drinking everything that plastic is made of.
Right. So I use a water filter. I have a stainless steel water filter that I use. It's a carbon filter in it that works really well. And I will have a glass drinking bottle or a stainless steel, container that I will use. Here and there, if I absolutely don't have any other option, I will drink bottled water if I'm in a pinch, but it's not something I practice on a regular basis.
I used to do it, but these are just things that, you hang around different circles, you learn different things, and then, the metals in young boys is high now, right? And I heard this, and I don't know, the air fryers, which I thought was the coolest thing on the planet, but those also produce metals and things, because everything gets heated up in there. I mean, So check out that. And, I didn't do any research to qualify it, but I mean, just so many things we have to be more conscious of, and working with people like you to understand the things. So how do people get a hold of you? Do you have anything coming up in the future? I know your book is there, but how do people get a hold of you, and what can you leave us with?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll search my name, Khieanne Dawson, or on my Facebook business page, Abundant Life Integrative Health Coaching. Or if you would like to email me to, have further conversations about various things, or if you have any speaking engagements that you would like me to speak at, I can be reached at abundantlifeihc@gmail.com, abundantlifeihc@gmail.com. And so, for those who are interested in coaching, definitely reach out to me. I will, have an initial consultation first to see if we're a good fit, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, and do me a favor, spell that abundant, please, for me. We'll get that in the chat for you before you go. That way it's in there. The email.
The email is abundant life.
Okay.
IHC.
Wait a minute. Well, abundant. How do you spell abundant? I mean, I don't have spell check on this thing. We're just keeping it real.
No problem. Yeah, AB like boy.
Yep.
UN like Nancy.
Yep.
D like dog.
Yep.
A N like Nancy. T LIFE IHC @gmail.com. AbundantLifeIHC@gmail.com.
Got it. I have no shame in my dyslexia gifts. I have spelling and all that stuff. I have no shame. That's my gifts. So thank you.
No worries.
So, I mean, Khieanne, this has been amazing to have this time with you. And I wanted to see, I'm looking at my notes here, and I make sure that, like I said, there were so many things that I wrote down knowing we wouldn't get to all of them. How do you, based off of everything that we've said, if you were to summarize something that we could take away from today in a 1 or 2 points, or 1 point, if you have that, what would that be? What can you do in that space for us?
Yeah, so really what it comes down to is to live the best life you can live. Look at all the gifts that we have in nature, right? God created all these different things for us. The healthy foods, as natural as possible, the fresh air to breathe, the sunshine, get outside, go for walks, go in the woods, enjoy these benefits. When we think of ideal lifestyle, we can go back to the Garden of Eden, the original plan of how we were created and what kind of environment we were created in. And as much as we can go back to that kind of experience, the better. And the glue that holds it all together is that connection with God. For me, I know that has been a game changer through all sorts of struggles and trials and challenges in, mentally, physically, and spiritually, understanding and studying God's word and having that prayer time is amazing. And I have to say, I learned recently, there's a brain specialist. Her name is Dr. Arlene Taylor. She did research. She and her team did research, and they found that when someone is being prayed for, when someone is praying, there are electrical signals that actually comes from their brain, which I find to be absolutely fascinating. There's so many things we don't understand, but I just know enough that I have that faith that I know that is what has helped me to go beyond where my willpower could when it comes to healthy lifestyle. So having my fourth child, just before I had her, I was 163 pounds, and now I'm down to 128, which is where I was when I was 13 years old. So because of these healthy lifestyle principles, I have been able to navigate these different things. And for those who have had children, your body goes through a lot, but having these things all in balance has helped me. And yes, it's hard work, but it does make a huge difference when we understand these principles of how our bodies are designed.
I love the fact that, you shared that your weight and all the things that impact having a child, as a woman, and then all the other things around the diet and the body differences and the enzymes. It's
and
just,
so it's a wonderful thing. My husband, he has learned over time too that these different things. So when I first met him, he was not a plant-based eater, but he is now, and he has found the benefits of them, and just increasingly. So as time goes on, your palate changes. The things you used to like, you don't like anymore because you see that what you are eating now is healthier for you. It's helping your body feel better. So it's definitely, it takes time, but it takes persistence. And as I said, the faith in God is really what holds everything together. It's the glue that holds it all together. And that's been what it's been for me.
Well, that's amazing. And I can just share, all of what you shared in my own life. And I joke about the things that, like the pork and that, but I really watch what I eat, and the lymphatic system for me after having prostate surgery and removing some glands, it's kind of impacted my lymphatic system flow, and that's a whole nother conversation. I heard you mention it, and so eating and dieting, swelling up your body, all that stuff is. Maybe we should have you back and talk a little bit more about some of those other things we didn't get to. I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you if you could do that, and maybe we do something around a little education or something. So I want to say thank you, for this time. It's been amazing. I hope you enjoyed yourself here today.
I did. This was great conversation. It went by really fast.
It usually does, especially when you're spitting fire like you were. So I thank you. As always, really appreciate you, and always respected your determination to serve people and your faith. And man, get a hold of it, folks. So, thank you again. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me, Geoff. Appreciate it. It's been great.
It has been. I'll see you later, okay?
All right. Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So anyway, guys, I make sure you get this information. You get it out to folks, and then you tap into her emails in the chat or reach out to her on LinkedIn. Just phenomenal. I've seen over the last years that I've known her, that what she says it's true. She lives what she talks about. And I've just seen the transformation from when I met her the first time to now. And what better way you can treat yourself by the food that you eat, by the conditions of your lifestyle, by the choices that you make, right? And like she says, don't buy 5 bags of chips, buy one and then buy some potatoes. Like she said, pay attention to the things around your environment, the external and internal things that impact how we feel. So anyhow, I appreciate it. Make sure you share this information, get out here and subscribe and reach out to my friend Khieanne. And before I go, I got to tell you, she talked a lot about how you see yourself and changing that and turning over, finding a spiritual connection somewhere. We need that now more than ever. Right? Whatever it is that you believe in, I said where I come from, find that and make that connection. And get in line with the stinking thinking. Don't let nobody take you for granted. Don't let nothing stop you from reaching your destiny. That's what I always say. Don't let nothing stop you from reaching your destiny, especially your stinking thinking. Hey, listen, before I run, just one quick thing. Thursday and Friday this week, we have a summit that we're hosting on Conversations with Geoff, raising capital like a pro. We've got 26 guests coming in, 24 rather, from all walks of life and investing and lending space for no more excuses about it, don't have money. Oh, it's going to be phenomenal. So make sure you put it on your calendar. More information will follow. Have a great day. Appreciate everybody's support. And remember, watch that stinking thinking. Don't let that be the reason why you don't get what you want out of you in your life. Take care now.